Today we're going to be reacting to my 2023 AFL ladder predictions. I do this video every year and we see how poorly my calls were before the start of the season. Now normally when I do these over the last 3 years, I compare the differences between the actual ladder and my predicted ladder. And whilst I started awesome in 2020 comparing to the other two, I started with a difference of 46. And then it got worse from there. 2021 it jumped to 68, and then in 2022 I got a difference of 70. Now I did see Rise Macca's video and he got a score of over 80, so I don't know, maybe this season is even more difficult than the years before. I'm hoping I can get under the 68 mark that I got in 2021, but given that I know that there are going to be some really poor, shocking calls in this video, you know, we might be in for something even worse. So let's strap ourselves in here. We're going to go through every team and let's see how far off I was with some of these predictions. So kicking off the ladder at 18th spot, and I'm sorry for all the Hawks fans watching this, but I got to put your side in at last position. Hawthorn in last I had, that's alright I guess. They finished 16th obviously, so I was off by 2, but they clearly weren't the worst side this season. The reason why I had them finishing so low, I just had a feeling because of all the experience I lost in the off-season and because I didn't really bring anyone in that they were going to struggle, and they did struggle at times, especially at the start of the year, but I didn't really think that their youngsters were going to develop as quickly as they did. And obviously having them at 18th, I was off by 2. Yeah, look, we're on track for a score of 36 here, so I won't be too dissatisfied with that. That's all right. Now in 17th spot, I've got another side that you could argue in I know this is going to be bad than the Hawks, probably in a worse situation to be honest, and that is the Giants. Now the Giants in 17th. I even said in the video that they're in a worse situation than the Hawks. I want to say one thing. The two clubs are currently not in a bad situation, but certainly not the Giants. The Giants, they finished 7th, and I tipped them to finish 17th. I wasn't, honestly, the worst person with these Giants predictions. Quite a few actually did have the Giants finishing last. So, it's still terrible. I mean, they finished 7th, and they had an incredible year. They probably should have finished higher, given they almost made it to a grand final. They were 1 point away. So technically, if you look at it that way, they finished 3rd. But they did finish 7th on the ladder. That is a difference of 10. I like to hope that's my worst call this video, but I just have a feeling that it isn't. Now in 16th spot, I've got a team that is slowly going to get better, slightly improved, and that is going to be North Melbourne. So North Melbourne, with the my ladder predictions, you can sort of tell what team it's going to be with the graphics. So obviously I saw the blue, I'm like, okay, it's either going to be North or West Coast. It's North, which means I had West Coast higher, which technically isn't great, considering they finished 18th. But I'll take this one. They finished 16th on my ladder predictions, and in the actual ladder they finished 17th. But yeah, obviously they were clearly a bottom 2 side. They started really well. Like, it looked to almost be like, oh geez, my prediction, I've underestimated North Melbourne. But nah, luckily that I did underestimate them too much. Yeah, obviously I just assumed after being, in the bottom 2 for the last 3 or 4 years or whatever it's been, surely they'd at least rise above the bottom 2. But it hasn't really been a year for them. They do like that winning culture, North Melbourne. They did get that really strong win to finish the year to prevent the 18th spot. Surely they can't finish bottom 3 years in a row, and I don't think with the likes of the Giants and the Hawks coming through that they will. Jeez, not liking the Giants. I still don't really get how I had the Giants finishing worse or predicting to finish worse than North Melbourne. I'm like, well, with the likes of the Giants, North can't finish in the bottom 2. Well, the Giants weren't the worry. In fact, Hawthorn weren't the worry either. It shot up a few spots in my predictions since I went through my early ladder predictions, and that is the West Coast Eagles. Now, obviously, the Eagles in 15th, that isn't great. It was obviously 3 positions away from the reality. They finished 18th, and look, I wouldn't say clear, because North were pretty bad, but the deserving wooden spooners I felt, because for the majority of the season, West Coast were worse than North Melbourne, with so many uncompetitive performances, very few close results. Yeah, it was just one of those years where they just didn't see any good signs apart from a couple of good wins late. I think they finished the season half decently with that decent first few quarters against Adelaide, the win against the Dogs, the game against Essendon, could have won, but yeah, it was just the West Coast Eagles, just so many 100-point smashings week in, week out. And it was a free win, honestly, if you played West Coast for the majority of the season. And not just a free win, but a free win by 50 points. And I think in 2023, they're not going to be as bad, or at least as bad as everyone is making it out to be. Oh, look, if that's what I was saying, if everyone was having them that badly and finishing low, I should have done the same thing. Although it could have been worse. I know a few people had them even higher than 15th. But if you had them outside of your bottom 4... realistically, I don't really know what you're doing, because who the hell are you going to put in replacement of West Coast? 14th spot, we're heading into the mid-table positions. I'm going to go with Essendon. Essendon 14th, that's okay, off by 3 positions there. Clearly, they weren't as bad as 14th suggested, but to be honest with you, with the way that they finished, they were pretty much a bottom 4 side. They kind of checked out in a way. Plays sort of had enough. They were satisfied in a way with how they performed all season. They're like, oh, look, if the excuses are going to be given out by the coach, why don't we pretend that we are, tired and all that sort of stuff? Because I think Essendon, at positions that they were in the season, could have probably made the finals. They started really strongly with the first couple of wins of the year. But yeah, there was a reason why I had the Bombers so low. I just didn't really think they were going to do too much this season. They weren't really going to improve too much from 2022. They did improve a bit, but a very disappointing way to finish the year for Essendon.
You could argue, aside that in my opinion, they're going to slide down the ladder quite a few spots, and that
Side
is for
blue.
mine, the Western Bulldogs.
The Western Bulldogs in 13th. Now, I honestly don't really know where I was, coming from having them this low. It definitely was a big call because this season the Dogs should have finished in the top 8. A lot of pundits had them in the top 8. I thought they were going to finish 13th, but at the end of the day, they didn't make finals. So you can't claim this as that bad of a call. I don't know. I just didn't really rate the Dogs heading into this season, to be honest with you. I just thought, look, they just limped into finals. They were really disappointing. They're certainly capable of more, but Beveridge is the coach right now. I don't think he's getting the most out of their players. And I don't think the players really want to play for Beveridge at the moment. So, yeah, look, I think there's a decent chance he might be sacked before the end of the season next year. I know he's still got a couple of years left on his contract, but yeah, the Dogs another season this year, they just weren't good enough. A poor start. They had glimpses this season where they looked like that top 4 quality side that everyone was expecting them to be, but then they finishing the season in this terrible fashion, losing to the bottom 3 sides.
Now, coming in at number 12 spot,
Who do we have?
The Adelaide
in 12th. Where do they finish? I need to have a quick look here, because it wouldn't have been the worst. They did finish 10th, so I'll take it as only 2 points away from the predicted position. I think Adelaide finishing in 12th was a little bit higher than a few other people, but I did see a couple have him, rise into the 8. I think next year they'll probably rise into the 8, but this was certainly a year for Adelaide where I think they should have made finals, especially at home. They played amazing footy. They looked like a top 4 side. Unfortunately, away, the results didn't come for Adelaide. But I will say one thing for Adelaide. They had 3 games against the top 4 sides that have all decided by a goal or less. They just lost away. So it's not a bad effort, losing by under a goal against Brisbane, Melbourne, and Collingwood away. Fixing those results, though, even one of them going their way. The bloody Ben Keys goal going their way. Like, so many things in a way didn't go Adelaide's way. They were quite unlucky. 2 close losses against Collingwood. It was the Carlton in 2022 in a way, Adelaide this year. They should have made finals. They kind of got robbed. I probably should have been a few more positions away. This 12th position doesn't seem as good as what it is on paper.
I do genuinely believe they can win more games at home than lose, and if that does occur, then it gives them a really strong chance of competing for possibly finals.
That's not a bad call. They 100% won more games and lost at the Adelaide Oval, and it gave them the best chance of possibly making finals. It's just the away form that really let them down.
And 11th spot, I have the side that I support in St Kilda. And
well, there we go. It was about to happen. Honestly, most people had them finishing lower than that, but they finished 6th. So regardless, it was still poor for myself, and I was a Saints fan, so of course I underestimated the Saints, especially after the way we ended last year. That didn't give me much belief. Then Bratton got sacked abruptly. That probably would have affected the players possibly. Obviously didn't bring any players in through the trade period, so we had really no list changes at all, honestly, over the off-season, apart from the draft. And then our practice matches as well, we looked pretty slow, lethargic and poor, so I didn't expect much from the Saints, but obviously with Ross Lyon under the helm, yeah, we got the most of our list, 100%, yeah. It was a good season for the Saints, finishing 6th, that was 5 positions away. I'm happily wrong on that one. That's one of those predictions where, yeah, I'm alright to be wrong with. For some reason, every time I predict the Saints to make the 8, they don't. When I don't predict them to make the 8, they make the 8, so that's weird.
Now, in 10th spot, just missing out on finals, I've got the Sydney Swans.
Sydney Swans in 10th. Honestly, not too bad considering they finished 8th, but they probably should have finished in that 10th position if it wasn't for that Ben Keys goal that was disallowed. I probably would have actually ended up finishing 10th, so yeah, not too bad. Obviously, Sydney having a pretty disappointing season overall compared to last year. Geez, I tell you what, they shouldn't have made finals from the position they were in. They were like 15th or whatever at one stage of the season, and they won a massive rampage of wins. But yeah, their year was pretty much ruined in the first half of the season, and it wasn't because of that grand final defeat. It was more the injuries. They were ravaged with injuries, particularly down defence. Even players such as Warner, Callum Mills, I don't think they were as influential as they were in seasons gone by. So Sydney finishing 10th, obviously they finished 8th, 2 away. They made the finals, so credit to the fact that they made the finals, but I predicted them to finish a lot lower than the year before, and it kind of did happen, so it's not the worst call.
So a 9th spot now, just missing out on finals. I have the Gold Coast Suns. The Suns,
the Suns are 9th. Not good at all there. Yeah, I was bullish on the Suns. A lot of people kind of were as well, given the way that they performed last year. Everyone was optimistic with the way they, for once, didn't collapse at the end of the season. They actually had good performances all throughout the year. And yeah, it didn't help how, honestly, they didn't have Took Miller for a good chunk of the season. Ben King was not fit and firing. Quite a few of their defenders, such as Collins and Flanders, went missing after the first half of the season. But yeah, it was just a disappointing year for Gold Coast. I thought that still they weren't that bad, and I thought a lot of their performances were pretty competitive. They were more competitive than normal. And at home, I thought they were better than most sides. But they just didn't get enough consistency going their way, the Suns, unfortunately. And obviously ended up finishing 15th. But at one stage, they were in the 8 middle of the year with those wins in Darwin. So it's probably just a safe bet having them in your bottom 6, because they always end up finishing there regardless, every single season without question. So they ended up finishing 15th, bottom 4. I predicted them 9th. That is a position of 6. So these calls aren't getting too much better, I'm not going to lie.
And the first side to scrape into that 8th position, I've got Port Adelaide.
We have the Power. All right. I mean, I had them in the finals, to be honest with you, and they didn't make it the year before, and it wasn't a confirmed at all that they were going to slide back in. I knew that I had Port in the finals. I remember my predictions, but I'm actually a little bit disappointed that they weren't higher than what I thought in my head that I had them. I thought I had them in 6th for some reason. No, it's still okay. They had the Power finishing 8th. Obviously had a pretty incredible home and away season. We don't talk about the finals, but that's not important in this. And they were on par with the best side in the comp with Collingwood for a good chunk of the year. Then they started falling. But, you know, Zachy Butters, one of the players stepping up big time, almost winning the Brownlow. And, yeah, I just didn't think they were going to go on a run like they did go. I thought they were going to get enough wins to finish in the 8th position. I thought they were a good enough side, given that they were top 4 in 2021 and 2020. But, yeah, it's not too bad. 5 away. I can cop a prediction like that. It's not too bad. We are still 7 teams to go. I know that there are certain teams that I'm going to get wrong by quite a bit, and I think I'm on 43 points. So I'm already going to get more than what I did in 2020. I don't know how I did so well that year. I really have a good chance of possibly doing worse than my last 2 years. I hope I don't. Who do I have for 7th?
They're going to do a whole lot of damage this year. And next up, we've got the 7th spot, and for mine, I'm going to go with Fremantle.
Freo, that's not good. It isn't good at all because they finished 14th, so that was off by the prediction I had them in 7th. So that's 50 now. I'm in real danger of getting the worst score I've ever done in the season predictions. Obviously, Fremantle, I didn't have them climbing higher. I thought they were going to be better, though, this season, but I just thought other teams were going to be better around them and they were going to finish 7th. They certainly weren't a better side this year. They kind of wasted their season in a way, and after a couple of more outs, they're going to have this trade feud. You know, I actually don't know if they're going to make finals again the years after. They might have to almost, in a way, look for a bit of a, maybe not rebuild, but just sort of a start up again. But obviously, Freo after last year have been really disappointing. They were just really slow and boring to watch and couldn't score. They did have a good patch this season where they, you know, beat some good sides in the middle, and then they just fell away back to their old self. Really poor loss, highlighted probably against the Giants.
6th spot, and I've gone with the Collingwood.
So the Pies in 6th position, another pretty bad one. I know they made the finals, but they obviously finished first minor premiers and went on to win the flag. I thought they were still going to be a very strong side, possibly better, but because of all those close wins, I thought that maybe those results wouldn't go their way, and they possibly fall a few spots because of that. It's not the worst reasoning, but clearly they didn't have to rely as much on close wins this season.
The Pies for mine are a bit of a mystery side. They could finish as high as 1st or as low as 12th, but I don't want to...
Well, I mean, they did finish 1st, so I guess I said that right, but as low as 12th, come on. I don't really know why too many people thought they were going to finish outside the 8.
They're the sort of side I feel like this Collingwood group that could still finish outside the top 4 but could do damage late into the season and still possibly win a flag.
It's not as bad. The more things I say, the better it looks in a way. I did still think that regardless of the ladder position, they could win the flag. They won the flag, obviously, so yeah.
Now, Pies fans might actually hate this call because in 5th spot, I'm going to go for Carlton.
Have we gotten one bang on? Yes, we have. I thought we weren't going to get one all video. I really didn't, and it would have been the first time of all the reacting to season predictions where I didn't get at least one spot on. So Carlton finishing in 5th. Given that they didn't finish in the 8 last year, it's not the worst call. I know a lot of people are pretty optimistic on Carlton this year that they were going to rise, and they did rise, but they didn't seem like they were going to rise at the start of the year. I mean, it was one of the best turnarounds you'll ever see a club have in a season, and they almost went all the way to make a grand final as well. It wasn't just the home and away season, it was the finals as well. Yeah, pretty incredible stuff from Carlton, but I always thought the Carlton were going to have a really good season. I thought that the loss against Collingwood in the last round was going to be a massive motivator, fuel for motivation in the next season, and it was.
In Go the Melbourne. 4, we've got Melbourne.
Yes. Alrighty. This video could revive itself here, possibly. I went the D's, they finished 4th, and they finished 4th in real life as well. So that's 2 in a row where I've gotten the exact position of on the ladder. Yeah, again with Melbourne, I think everyone had them as a top 4 side. I thought they'd dip a little bit in a way, and they kind of did, but I thought they had more of a consistent season this year than last year. Because the way they ended the year at Melbourne this season was a lot more convincing, I felt, than the years before. It didn't matter, though. They didn't end up making a win a final, which is disappointing, and surely I wouldn't have predicted in this video, but yeah, it was disappointing.
In third spot now, I have the Geelong Cats.
So I knew it. I knew my predictions would go pear-shaped once again, and obviously having Geelong in third position, they finished... Oh, did they finish 12th? They did finish 12th, so that's actually really bad. That's 9 spots away there. Who didn't have the Cats outside the top 4 in their predictions? Outside the top 8, especially, like, surely not many. Yeah, I thought they were going to back up their year like they did last year. They were the premiership winning side. They won 16 in a row, and I just surely assumed that they were going to carry it on. They probably didn't work as hard in terms of training as much as they probably have in previous seasons heading into this one, because it's like, well, they were already on the flag. It's not as important now this season if they don't win one, because they all know what it feels like. Maybe that's the mentality. It probably was in a way. But yeah, the Cats, they maybe are starting to regress now. Who knows? I think they could still make finals next year. They did have quite a few injuries, particularly in their midfield. Guthrie pretty much didn't play all year. And I don't know. I think Geelong, they definitely could start dipping, but they always seem to find their way back up in the top 4 or whatever the following year. So it wouldn't shock me too much, but it wasn't the year for the Cats.
Now, a little bit of a different call here. In second spot, I've actually gone with Richmond. I've got the Tigers.
You idiots! You idiots! You idiots! That is it. I'm officially the worst I've ever been in a year, because I go on Richmond, and obviously Richmond didn't finish anywhere near the top 2. They didn't finish in the top 8. They didn't even finish in the top 12. They finished 13th and had such an average season for Richmond standards given sort of their expectations. I thought the Tigers were definitely going to rise after their convincing finish to the year, but I got sucked in. I really did get sucked in. Obviously, they were a side that probably should have finished a little bit higher last year with a lot of close losses. I'm not going to lie. They were really, stiff in a way. And they were one of the highest scoring sides, if not the highest scoring side last year as well. Mixed with the additions, Taranto and Hopper and all that, and his strength in their midfield, I thought they were probably going to be a better side and get more wins on the table. And it wasn't the case for Richmond this season. They just sort of started really poorly. Way too sloppy, unaccountable, too many skill areas I felt for Richmond all year. And I doubt many had them that high. I really do doubt it. I know a few had them in the top 4, but I went for an outlandish call that really backfired, and yeah, it's annoying. I know I want to double down on this. Why the hell did I have him second?
Obviously got Riewoldt, Lynch. I think he'll be the best forward in the comp next year and kick 70+ goals if he's...
Yeah, well, good call there. It's obviously leaving it to last. Brisbane in first, and they did finish second and just about finished first in a way. So I'm not too disappointed with that one. I thought the Lions were going to have a really top season, and they did. Made a grand final. We're 4 points short of a premiership. Most people had the Lions in the top 4, so if you're going to do poorly with any prediction, if it was a Brisbane prediction, mate, you're an idiot, to be honest with you. Well, I tallied up the scores, obviously now knowing that I can't really beat any of my previous year's scores, and I thought, surely I was going to do so, but no, I ended up getting 76 as my total score with the differences of the two clubs, which means that this was the worst. They get worse year on year. Before we do wrap things up, we've got a couple of awards we want to go through, see if I got any of them right. And then also, I know Riles Macker did this in his video. I made up my own big calls video. I had a few that I said before the year started. Let's see if I got any of those right as well. So obviously, Coleman medal. It couldn't really be too much worse than what I had for Tom Lynch. I know in my video I talked about Tom Lynch. He'll have 70+ goals. But he was injured, so maybe if he wasn't injured, that could have occurred possibly. Because he had a really good season 2022. Yeah, another pretty bad one, honestly. Brayshaw didn't have that great of a year. He still had a decent year. He's a good player and all that. But I predicted him doing the Brownlow. We only had 10 votes, and he played pretty much the full season. Another incorrect prediction. It was Will Ashcroft, I said. And it's not as bad in a way, because I think he would have won it if he didn't get injured, to be honest. I think of players, I think he's still a better player than Sheasel, but Sheasel definitely had the better year. He played the full year, and he had a great year. And then my grand final, I had Geelong to play Collingwood. So I actually had Collingwood in my grand final there after having them in 6, which is kind of weird. Geelong obviously nowhere near it. And I had Geelong winning it by 10 points to go back-to-back. That was shit. The Bulldogs win 1 of their first 6 games. I was certainly not bullish on the Bulldogs, but the Dogs, they did win 3 of their first 6 games. It looked okay. They didn't win a game until round 3, but, they started to pick up a little bit, so that's an incorrect one. Max King to kick 35 more goals. Now, the reason why that was said because he didn't play until round 10. He ended up kicking 28 goals, so ultimately, it wasn't it wasn't correct, but if he didn't get injured that second time, I think I would have got that one right. So that's sort of annoying in a way. Injuries forced the Ds out of the 8. Well, clearly that was incorrect, but they might as well have not finished in the 8. They didn't win a final, the Ds. There'll be a 3-way tie in the Brownlow. Well, that didn't happen, although it could have happened. It actually really could have happened. It was a close Brownlow camp, but again, I was just trying to be a little bit, maybe not different. I just wanted it to happen. And this one actually is a chance of being correct. 6 100 plus smashings occur in 2023. It happened. I had a look. It happened. That's not bad considering it's quite rare for 100-point smashings to occur in this day and age. But it was West Coast. So you can thank West Coast for being terrible. They had 5 to their name, with Essendon obviously being the other one against the Giants. And that's it. So we finished on a high. At least we get one prediction correct, but most of the other predictions were shit. Hopefully you guys got a good bit of enjoyment out of this one as well, and it entertained you a little bit with how poor some of these calls were. Let me know if you did better than me, if you also did your predictions before the season started to see if you got better than 76. But it was a bit of a hard one this year, considering a lot of teams expected to do well this year did poorly and vice versa. So it wasn't that easy, but yeah, can't win them all. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you soon in my next video.